Welcome to the debate. Today, we're stepping into the invisible architecture of elite performance. We're looking at the competitive mindset training curriculum from Sporte Academy, which is a division of Sportainment Global. And this material, it doesn't really care about your mouse sensitivity or your keybinds. Instead, it makes this fascinating and frankly pretty aggressive argument that in games like PUBG, Free Fire, or Call of Duty, mechanical skill is just the entry fee. The real differentiator, the thing that separates the hard-stuck player from a champion, is all in your head.
And that is exactly where I start to get, well, skeptical. Because we're looking at this course book that tries to codify human psychology into like a set of checklists and anti-tilt algorithms. So the core question for me is this. Can you really boil down the chaotic, adrenaline-fueled reality of a 1v4 clutch into a scientific flowchart? Or does this Sporte Academy approach risk over-mechanizing players, turning a passionate pursuit into, a bureaucratic exercise?
I'm taking the position that this is long overdue. The inner game is a rigorous science. For too long, gamers have treated it like some kind of voodoo. Sporte Academy is correctly saying that things like resilience, focus, tilt control, these aren't just personality traits, they are skills that you have to train with the same precision as your aim.
And I'm on the other side. While I respect the ambition here, I think the curriculum tries to force this rigid, one-size-fits-all logic onto the messy reality of human emotion. I mean, when you start giving Gen Z grinders stop-loss rules for their ranked matches and asking them to fill out mental game cheat sheets, you might just be stifling the exact creative instinct that makes a player great in the first place. You're trying to turn a jazz musician into a metronome.
I can see why you'd call it rigid, but let me just lay out the foundation for why this is so necessary. We have to look at the data. The source material makes a really compelling case that mindset is the defining factor, not just some nice to have. They cite specific research showing that higher preset arousal, just being nervous before a match even starts, is linked to a 9% decrease in your odds of winning.
A 9% decrease is significant, sure.
It's massive. In a game where the time to kill is measured in milliseconds, giving up a 9% edge before you even drop, that's a death sentence. And Sporte Academy doesn't approach this with, vague advice like just calm down. They come at it with neuroscience. They treat the brain like a biological machine. They break down amygdala functions, cortisol clearance times, all of it. The whole argument is that if you understand the machinery in your own head, you can literally hack your biology to win. Okay.
I don't deny the biology of stress. We've all felt our heart rate spike. But my concern with this course book approach is that it tries to create an algorithm for the human experience. It takes perfectly natural reactions like getting frustrated at a bug or blaming lag, and it calls them character failures. It labels them as a fixed mindset. It suggests that if you just follow a 3-step protocol, you can override millions of years of evolution. And this idea that talent is overrated and everything is just effort, it's a nice thought, but in the brutal reality of esports, it feels a little reductive. It ignores that some of the best players ever are emotional. They thrive on that chaos. This curriculum seems to want to sanitize all of that away.
See, I think sanitize is the wrong word. I'd say optimize. Let's dig into the first big point here, the neuroscience of tilt. The source material is very specific. It defines tilt, not just as getting angry, but as an amygdala hijack.
Which is a very dramatic way of saying you lost your cool.
It's a physiological reality, though. The material explains that when you get frustrated, your amygdala floods you with stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, which actively mess with your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain doing strategy and rational thinking. So when you're tilted, you're not just mad, you are, in a very real sense, biologically compromised. And the course highlights the 20-minute rule. It takes about 20 minutes for those stress hormones to clear your bloodstream. Even if you think you've calmed down, your blood chemistry says you haven't.
And that leads to their solutions, which is where I think this all falls apart. They suggest things like box breathing. 4 seconds in, 4 hold, 4 out. Okay, fine, that's standard stuff. But then they propose the stop-loss rule.
Which I think is brilliant. It's a circuit breaker.
It's totally unrealistic. The rule is 3 consecutive losses means a mandatory 30-minute break. Or 2 losses where you felt tilted and you stopped ranked for the day. I mean, think about the audience here. For a grinder trying to go pro or just climb out a diamond, stopping for 30 minutes every time you lose 3 games just destroys your momentum. You're telling someone to walk away right when they have the most fire to improve.
But is it fire or is it the tilt spiral? The source charts this out. You lose, you get frustrated, your cortisol spikes, your decision-making gets worse. So you play worse, you lose again, and the cycle just repeats. You end up tanking your rank because you refuse to hit reset. The stop-loss rule protects your rank from your own biology. It's discipline.
It might protect your rank, but it kills your drive. And look at what else they call tilt. The material lists aggressive play as a sign of emotional failure. It says taking fights you'd normally avoid as a sign your mental game is collapsing. But in the current meta of most battle royales, aggressive play is the winning strategy. If I push a squad because I'm hyped up, Sports Academy calls that a failure of emotional regulation. I call it seizing the initiative. You risk creating passive players who are too busy checking their pulse to push an advantage.
I disagree. I think the material distinguishes between calculated aggression and, just emotional aggression. There's a huge difference. And on that note, the social filtering technique, immediately muting toxic players, the source is emphatic. Mute at the first sign of toxicity, no exceptions. It just preserves your cognitive resources.
But that creates a bubble. If you just mute anyone who critiques you, you aren't learning conflict resolution, you're just isolating yourself. In a team game, sometimes you have to weather the storm to get the call-out that wins the game. This feels like running away from the social part of gaming, not managing it.
I'd call it resource management, but let's move on. Let's talk about engineered confidence. The material really attacks the whole fake it till you make it idea. It argues for real confidence, which has to be based on evidence. They call it the confidence cycle. Practice leads to improvement, which leads to trust, which leads to execution.
Confidence is built, not born. Yeah, I can get behind the sentiment there.
Exactly. And they draw a line between that and arrogance. They say, and I'm quoting here, arrogance is fragile because it collapses when you face someone better. Real confidence holds up because it's based on your own prep. The section on self-talk was, I thought, particularly compelling.
You mean the don't miss versus hit the shot thing?
Yes. It's basically a linguistic protocol. If you tell yourself don't miss, your brain actually focuses on the concept of missing. It's that pink elephant effect. If I say don't think of one, that's all you can picture. You're priming your brain for failure.
So the idea is to only use positive instructions. Hit the shot. Smooth tracking.
Correct. It directs your focus toward the solution, not the problem.
I can buy that framing, but I have a major issue with how they apply the growth mindset. The source claims fixed mindset players blame external factors, lag, hackers, teammates. But let's be real about modern gaming. In PUBG or COD, lag and hackers are objective realities. We aren't just imagining them.
But dwelling on them doesn't help you win.
No, but labeling a player as having a psychological deficiency because they get mad at a game-breaking bug is basically gaslighting them. The source creates this, toxic productivity loop where every bad outcome has to be your own fault. It says, control what you can control. But sometimes the game is just broken. If a player spends all their time thinking, oh, I should have rotated better, when the server actually desynced and teleported them into wall, they're learning the wrong lesson.
The point isn't that lag doesn't exist. The point is that blaming it is a dead end. It's a victim mentality. The growth mindset player asks, okay, given the lag, how could I have played safer? It's about agency, and that agency is crucial for our third topic, the flow state and clutch protocols.
Ah, yes. The section on clutch performance. This is the holy grail.
And the data here is just staggering. Experienced players win 65% of their games when they're in a flow state versus only 36% when flow is low. That is a massive difference. So the course gives a specific 3-step clutch protocol to get you there. Slow down, focus on process, trust training.
Where step 1 is take one conscious breath,
which activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It anchors you. Under pressure, the brain experiences what's called attentional narrowing. You literally stop seeing things in your periphery. You forget the zone timer. The protocol forces your brain to widen its view again. It's a scripted mental step to overcome choking.
I find the visualization protocol part interesting, imagining the win. But the pressure reframing idea feels a little too optimistic. The source wants players to interpret shaky hands and a racing heart not as fear, but as readiness.
Because physiologically, fear and excitement are almost identical. High heart rate, sweaty palms. It's the interpretation that matters.
Interpreting it is one thing. Living it in a final circle with 3 people pushing you is another. Telling some 19-year-old to just reframe their terror as excitement is so much easier said than done. My point is that clutching is often about pure instinct. It's about that chaotic, unthinking reaction that bypasses your conscious mind. If you're in a 1v3 and you stop to think, okay, step 1, breathe, you're already dead. The protocol introduces a cognitive delay right when you need to be instantaneous.
I think the idea is that you train the protocol until it becomes instinct. It's muscle memory for your emotions. And that brings us to how you practice it, the bureaucracy of improvement.
Or, as I like to call it, homework, the game.
It's professional discipline. The Learning from Losses module is essential. It frames losses as tuition for the school of improvement. The 3 questions framework is the antidote to rage quitting. After a death, you ask, what killed me? What could I do differently? And what will I do next time? This turns that vague feeling of I suck into actionable data.
The logic is sound, I'll give you that. But look at how they say to implement it. The pregame routine they prescribe is 15 minutes long. Phase 1, body prep. Phase 4, environment setup. They literally want you to communicate availability to household and do a lighting check before you play.
Which signals to your brain that it is performance time. It builds consistency. It says, we are not watching TikTok now, we are competing.
It turns a passion into a chore. If I've got 2 hours to play after work and I have to spend 15 minutes warming up, then wait 30 minutes after a bad loss for my cortisol to clear so I can do a VOD review, I'm barely playing the game at all.
But you are improving.
Are you? Or are you just getting paralysis by analysis? This whole curriculum encourages you to record every game, review every death. At a certain point, you're becoming a clerk of your own failures instead of a player. You risk overanalyzing every tiny movement and losing the very joy and flow that you were talking about earlier. You become a robot.
Will robotic consistency beat sporadic brilliance? The source notes that pros never jump into ranked cold. This core is exactly the difference between a casual and a pro. The casual wants to have fun, the pro wants to win. And that VOD review, waiting 30 minutes, is crucial because, as the text says, what you remember is often distorted by emotion. The recording doesn't lie.
The recording doesn't lie, true. But the text also includes a mental game cheat sheet to screenshot. It reduces everything to bullet points like breathe 444 and phone away. It feels like trying to fly a fighter jet with the instruction manual open on your lap. You're supposed to be in the game, not reading a PDF about it.
That cheat sheet is a training wheel. Eventually, you take it off.
Or you become dependent on it, and that's my fear. If you always rely on a stop-loss rule to manage your emotions, do you ever actually learn to play through the frustration? Sometimes, the best way to break a slump is to just queue up again, get angry, and force a win through sheer will. This curriculum has no room for that kind of gritty, unoptimized victory.
Because gritty victories aren't replicable. You can't build a career on them. You can't simulate sheer will. You can simulate a breathing protocol.
Maybe not, but you build memories on them. And ultimately, that sheer will is what defines a champion, not their breathing rate.
Okay, we're reaching the end of our time, so let's try to pull this together. From my side, the Sporte Academy material is basically the missing manual for esports. It correctly identifies that talent is overrated and that mindset, specifically a growth mindset backed by physiological regulation, is the true differentiator. The golden rule, they state, is undeniable. Control what you can control. Everything else is just noise.
And I'd say the tools, the breathing, the VOD reviews, they're useful in isolation, but the overall philosophy risks being too robotic. It pathologizes normal human emotion and tries to turn gaming into a spreadsheet. And while the winner's mindset is powerful, there's a real danger of overthinking the game. Sometimes you just need to trust your gut and play.
And maybe the real answer is somewhere in the middle. Having the discipline to prepare, but also the freedom to just let go once the match starts.
That I can agree with. Oh, I'm still not doing a lighting check before I get into a lobby.
We'll work on that.
We'll see.
It seems what the source material proves is that competitive gaming isn't just a hobby anymore. It is a discipline, and it requires serious mental application, whether you adopt the full protocol or not.
Absolutely. Whether you're a growth mindset disciple or an instinctive grinder, the game has definitely changed.
We invite you to decide for yourself. Will you adopt the Sporte Academy protocols, or will you trust your own instincts? Thank you for joining the debate.